morning, everyone. Happy Friday. Voila. Day 12. Good to see you all. Cool. So, right off the bat, what I wanted to talk about today was duality. This whole process, yoga at large, but the specifics of this technique also, everything is oriented towards a very specific but also cryptic goal. And the fact that you're participating in this, the fact that you've been curious of yoga and meditation and the internal and maybe spirituality, maybe stuff like the soul, suggests that more than likely within you there is a curiosity for this space. And so what is this space? I've thrown a few terms at you over the last 11, 12 days. One of those terms was moksha, right? So moksha means liberation, and what it suggests is that the goal of human existence, the purpose for our very special consciousness, is to liberate ourselves from ourselves, to excise something that is at this point fairly mysterious from our identity. And the famous sort of phrase that was used way back when was to remove the seed from the husk. And so a student would ask a master, what are we doing here? You're removing the seed from the husk. What is the seed? What is the husk? That's a complicated answer. So that's one term, moksha. Another term is nirvana, a fairly popular term, but nirvana means to extinguish the self. So if we sort of play around with that metaphor of a seed and a husk, nirvana would be just to sort of scorch the seed and the husk, just destroy it all. And what remains is what you're looking for. And then samadhi. So samadhi is oneness, sama, and then di, oneness with the divine, which entails either a scorching or destruction or extinguishing of the seed in the husk of the self, or a liberation from that self, or moksha. But they all are sort of, boundary philosophies that protect or inform us of an experience. And so we're looking for the experience. Another way of appreciating that experience is non-dualism, right? And so duality exists within our lives, and we play around with that in our meditation, an experience of peace when we practice, and then when we go back out into the world, an experience of stress. And so that's a duality. Within the techniques or the actual sort of physical experience, sensorial experience of the practice, it's like we're internalizing and then we're externalizing. We're focusing on what's within us, and then we're experiencing, with hopefully a greater degree of joy, what is outside of us. Another experience of duality is we're focusing on subtle things like the buzzing and tingling in internal spaces, and then we sort of are catapulted out into the gross things, the very physical, obvious things, the sounds of people or the world living and moving around us, and so on and so forth. I've been getting a lot of questions, which is awesome. So just a disclaimer before I get into this. Your questions are amazing. The relationship between questions and answers is a very meaningful and important and necessary thing to explore as students and as explorers and adventurers into this hopefully non-dualistic space. But there is a nuance. And so there's a book called the Bhairava Tantra. And it's a book that outlines a lot of different ways you can meditate, especially on focus techniques. So you can focus on the tip of a mountain, you can focus on the tip of your nose, you can focus on the breath in, you can focus on the retention. And the book is sort of like a chronicled discussion between Bhairava, a particularly demonic little Hindu god, and his consort Bhairavi. So many of the Hindu scholarly texts are organized in this way. A questioner and an answerer. And so again, the duality between the known and the unknown. But within everyone's questions, within my own questions and the technique, there is desire. There is a false conception of a right and a wrong way, right? And there is a false conception that there is, in fact, a destination, which goes contrary to everything I just said, because I did say there's this goal, there's this destination. Until we get to that goal, until we enter that destination space, we will have questions and answers, and we will exist in the falsity of duality. But once we enter that space, and we enter that space, we lean into it during our practice. We lean into it many times throughout our moments if we're sensitive to it, and we have this sort of like yogic-oriented mind. But once you are inhabiting that space, hopefully, philosophically, you understand there are no questions and there are no answers, because questions and answers are actually the same thing. What I'm essentially trying to express is that there is no desired outcome once you are in that dualistic space. The journey dissolves, and all you realize that there is only a destination. Every moment that you exist is the destination. It is only the mind that is breaking it apart into, sort of like point A and point B, into better or worse, into right and wrong. And so how we can apply this to our techniques is just stay loyal to, the instructions I've given you, and that's going to sort of liberate you from the need to figure out if it's good or bad. And then just sort of, move through it as if every breath in was the destination, was the goal. Every retention is the destination, is the goal. Whether you're panicked or whether you're at peace, it's all fine. All there are consequences. All there is a relationship. We're essentially going nowhere. Life is unfolding through us as it will. It's not our job to figure it out. This is sort of like, this languaging sort of like blankets, very general blankets like life itself, but in terms of the technique as well, there are only consequences. There is no right or wrong. You're only doing this thing. Just have fun with it. And then in hindsight, we can reflect. When we actually decide to dissect it, we can analyze and appreciate that there is actually a goal, but try to wipe that out of your sort of thought process right now. And so again, it's like, playing devil's advocate. I'm actually sharing two conflicting ideologies. There is a goal, but there's not a goal. But this is the languaging of yoga, and this is the languaging of that philosophy. And once you can wrap your head around the fact that they are both equally true and both equally valuable and both equally good, you're sort of like, at least mentally or intellectually, your mind's in the right space. Cool. So hope you enjoyed that. In terms of Bhairava, in case you're interested in him, he's like this little black, demonic, red-eyed, fanged creature. His vessel is a dog which howls. Dogs sort of like so obedient and in love with their masters. The dog howls to its master, and Bhairava, in desperation, howls to Shiva. He yearns desperately for Shiva, to connect to the first yogi, to connect to the representation of consciousness. And for that reason, when Hindus that worship Bhairava in particular go to Bhairavi temples, they'll give alcohol, because when people are sad and howling for their lost love or howling for the pain of life, we tend to drink, or some of us tend to drink. And so Bhairava represents this desperation, and in that he's sort of locked in duality. He feels that he is separate from the goal. And what he represents to his worshipers is, on one hand, that they can empathize with that human emotion of feeling separated, but he also informs them that that is a great delusion, that you are still connected. It is only a sense of loss, a sense of moving in the wrong direction, which is just a trick of the mind. Cool. So, cool. Think about that. Let's get into our techniques now. First 5 minutes, dukh, suffering, right and wrong, better or worse, lesser or greater. This is the device of our suffering, which is created through our mind. So I just want you to feel that. And then we'll get into our techniques, as you know, and at the end we'll focus on kaivalya. We're really ritualizing and organizing our time in practice. Beginning has a certain intention, the middle has a certain intention, and the end has a certain intention. All right, happy to see you all. 20 minutes on the clock. Good morning. Strong seated position. And try to sit up with a bit more length in the spine. Deep breaths into the diaphragm. About 4 minutes here. Changing the karmic intention of your practice, honoring the duality of your own psyche. You believe there is better, you believe there is worse, you believe there is right, you believe there is wrong, in relationship to you, how you process yourself. That generates suffering. That generates dukkha. But to feel that, to embrace that, one, helps you get beyond it. And two, suggests truthfulness, satya. All right, now find your baseline and engage Kumbhaka. 1 to 1.5, 1 to 1.5. Remember from yesterday, if that ratio corrupts your inhales to come, reduce the count. Now it's all physical, just feel. If you can, add 1 count to the retentions. Remember, there is no right or wrong, there are only consequences. And this technique, just like all yogic techniques, are designed more than anything to get you to a place where you can feel that. Non-dualism. No destination, no goal. No questions, no answers, just experiences. One more full round. The bottom retention, Baya Kumbhaka, with nothing in your lungs. Hold that for as long as you possibly can. Let the CO2 build. After that point, breathe normally and work to feel the subtle sensations of your body. Think about blood flowing. Think about cells moving. Think about electricity moving through nerves. So one more round, hold your breath for as long as you can at the end, and then breathe normally, feeling the nuances of your body. Slow down your breath. Increase your sincerity. And consider this non-dualism. There is no right or wrong. There is no better or worse. There is no final destination. There is only change. There is only consequence. In yoga, there is often this shared consensus that there are many paths up the mountain to nirvana, moksha, and samadhi. Yoga postures, asana, are a path. Breathwork, what we're doing now, is a path. Pure meditation is a path. But we can expand upon that. It's not just that there are many paths. All paths lead to the summit. Selfishness is a path. Hatred is a path. Anger is a path. Jealousy is a path. Because eventually, those emotions, as negative as they might seem, inform us of ourselves. And the reason that is true is because there is only one path. There is only one direction. And if you can vibe with that, you're connected to it. So take a few more breaths, externalizing your mind, listening to the world around you. There is no inside, there is no outside, there is no focus, there is no distraction. It's just another moment of change. Bring your hands to heart center. Slow down your breath. kaivalya, aloneness. When we can sense that individuality, when we can sense that stark isolation within ourselves, it is easier to recognize non-duality. And at some mystical point, even that breaks down. There is no self, there is no other. I am part of it, the famous metaphor, a drop within the ocean. Thumb knuckles to third eye center. For now, just appreciate your individuality and consider that one day that sense of isolation or independence will literally dissolve. Release your wrists to your knees, random finger to each thumb. Noble work, first thing in the morning, something to be proud of. With a breath in, open your eyes. And either see duality, it's me and the world, or attempt to not. It is just the world.